it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in and going live one more time, and just to see if we can address some of the individual viewer questions. So we are giving it a chat, another chance one more time. And I wanted to follow up on the live chat we did before and see if we could address, or if we wanted to address, some specific Q&A or specific topics. I know we kind of went into that live with kind of like getting into the mindset and sort of getting up your confidence and working on sort of your stubborn spots. So I wanted to see if you had any other specific questions that we could address here. And I hope you guys can see me okay and hear me. Once again, it's new here on the Going Live. And I just wanted to see if there were any specific questions that you guys had that we talk about in healing and sort of moving forward. Especially, I think someone was talking about like the smear campaign and how do you really deal with that? You know, realize that oftentimes that is a construction of the mind, in the narcissist. Hey, Graham Howard, how are ya? Hey, Dwayne Outdoors, good to see you. Nancy, looks like we have some viewers here who are coming in now. Good to see you guys. And we are, I just wanted to, kind of make some time available here. So if you guys had any specific questions, because I kind of feel like we did kind of like an overview. There's a parallel. Okay. A parallel with Asperger's versus narcissism. I kind of feel that those are in two different camps. Dwayne Outdoors, for like that question. I feel that Asperger's is a little bit more of a stress trigger, and it's more of a hyper arousal of the brain. That ends up, it doesn't mean that these people, can have, other situations, but I kind of think that it's very different. A parallel, I kind of feel that there could be, but it's just kind of like someone with Asperger's, they just sort of kind of go off and they have kind of tics, and then they might start swearing or cussing. So they have an hyperactivity of the brain. So I think that their energy in their brain, I really feel it is oftentimes more just of a hyper arousal, and that they don't have as much control or energy available for like other people's feelings. So they're sort of always into, controlling their Asperger's or worried about their Asperger's. So you might consider them to be sort of like maybe self-absorbed or something. And they are sort of in their own bubble a little bit. I mean, different, a little bit of a different, realize that with everything, there is this like sort of spectrum. And we'll get to your other comments here. I do see from Nancy, I was target of a smear campaign. I totally get that. So I just want to kind of address that. And then, that with that, and I'm not here to treat or diagnose or label anybody or anything, but it's just kind of like my understanding of that. And so just, like with someone who has a toothache, they're always going to be thinking about their toothache, and, and then, oh, is it pain going to go down? And, I can't chew on that side, or do I have to go to a dentist? So it's just like all you can feel is your toothache. I think with empathy kind of coming from me, I would think that someone with Asperger's, their empathy, I would think that they are somewhat self-preoccupied, I would think, with their condition, namely. So it might sort of seem like narcissistic or something. They might, sort of get into that poor, pitiful me, or, maybe want special treatment because of it, the way that a narcissist does. They feel that they deserve special treatment, but I think narcissists, they have it more of sort of they have more, it's because they have such a super high opinion of themselves. It's just like where I kind of feel like with a Asperger's, I think that they're more painfully aware, and they don't sort of have that sort of grandiose fantasy sort of, um, you know, suck up to me sort of approach that maybe a narcissist has in their perspective. But I mean, I think that it's just sort of like, again, in like M. Scott Peck, The Road Less Taken, he talks about life is difficult. He starts out the book with that, and that we all have legitimate suffering. And then to a degree that people have certain conditions, they're not able to see more than their suffering. And so it might come off as narcissistic, or sometimes there's other types. I'm Asperger's, there are parallels. Okay, so JB Rand says, I'm Asperger's, there are parallels. Okay, well, maybe he can speak up and like add to that. I mean, what better proof than in the pudding itself? Like, so yeah, and so I was curious. Yeah, that's awesome, doing outdoors. So definitely it's cool to talk about these different topics and things. And this is our first day going live. It's October 4th, 2020, 10-4. I love it. It's like a CB reference, 10-4. We're here. But, I just want to be here on this one to see if you guys have any specific questions we can do on the live, or just like to get your feedback. Because I know a lot of viewers have wanted something more interactive. So like this is a way to do it. And so JB Rents, yeah, if you have any parallels that you feel that there are, like just type them in the comments, I guess, in this chat section. So I'm not sure if this is a live chat. I can also kind of see it. But I just don't even know if this is working. So I'm going to trust that. So we're doing this second one here. And let's see here. Okay. And so just sort of going back and sort of circling back, is relapsing. This is Nancy Letitia Marin. So thank you so much for your viewership, Nancy. It's great to hear from you. And I know you've been on the channel for some time. Is relapsing into toxic interactions with cluster Bs pretty common after a few years of being free from them? How can survivors prevent a relapse? I would say yes, definitely, Nancy, especially for sort of certain blocks of time until, you've had enough, and, enough is enough. And, you just don't want to go down that rabbit hole anymore. You might find yourself relapsing, finding fun, because it's kind of like, there's oftentimes if you don't have create other choices or other options or other avenues for yourself, you might find yourself going back to the same antics. But, oftentimes there is something missing. And until the pain is great enough for you, until you really, you have that one day alone and you go, man, I'm sick of this rat race, or there's got to be something better for me, or I'm sick with just, these short fling of relationships, or I'm sick of, the love bombing, and then here we go again, the devaluing. And, so I think for a lot of people, they will stay in that stage until they become sort of more aware or more conscious, and sort of gaining on that emotional intelligence, when they kind of realize what's going on, and they realize, you might realize that you're approaching relationships with a specific way that maybe might be adverse to your own happiness. In other words, looking at what foot are you putting forward first, in order to attract that. So if you're sort of, used to that, it will become familial and comfortable. So yes, and then then it becomes a challenge with breaking free out of your comfort zone, and maybe not, dating or not surrounding yourself with those types of people, especially if it's wearing you out, getting you down. I'm not sure what you're suffering with or what your experience, but it's stressful. And until the pain is great enough and you go, wow, I've been, slapped in the face one too many times by trusting the wrong person, or I've given this person a chance too many times, or I've tolerated this long enough, and now I need to, identify this and stop living in that denial, until you sort of, I would say, hit that. Does it, become important, that you go, wow, well, there's something different that I need to do here, and then give it a chance, and then find, I would say for a lot of people who are healing, it's finding the right blend of like excitement and newness with stability. And there are those relationships out there, but a lot of people are used to, sort as I say, like throwing their pearl at swine and not being appreciated for who they are, not being respected, and then not having sort of that longevity. So yeah, you can tend to fall back into the familial because that is comfortable, and that's what you know so very well. So if you know this, I mean, what better great way than to go back to that which you know. So, and you might also kind of trick, I would say, for people in recovery, they might also trick themselves. Oh, well, I'm stronger now, I'm better now, and I'm healed now. Or maybe, I'm here and here in my life journey, and so maybe, this person won't have the same effect. So the mind, I would say, then plays its tricks and wants to go back into denial in one of its awesome, sophisticated ways, and where it's like, you're fooling yourself, and then, oh no, why did I do that again? Why did I, instead of going, a path, following a new path with a new vista and a new outcome, even if it's going it alone and strengthening yourself and remaining neutral and indifferent and not going back, oftentimes, it might be difficult because you might have to find new places to hang out, or new places to check out, new interests, things to pursue, and but you better check yourself first and make sure that you're not getting into relationships for the wrong reasons and that kind of thing, or relationships that will lead to more of the shame, or that stress and pressure where you're not really helping to improve yourself. So we can definitely talk about that. Hey, peace and harmony. I've got some people adding the hearts here. So cool to hear you guys. Okay, yeah. So some people are alone and then they're happy now. So that's a testimony. And going no contact with them. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you do, if people have gone too far, you do need to do restraining orders. You do need to protect yourself, protect your property, protect your loved ones, um, you know, um, because they will leave all sorts of clues. They'll leave their hammer in the garage, they'll leave their wallet in the sink, their shampoo bottle, their favorite their their garden tool, whatever it is, they're gonna, they'll find a way back until, or you might have trusted on that, and then you might have something at their house, which they're probably using and don't even care if they give it back to you. So you might need to reclaim your property, and things like that. And it can be very insidious. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, it can be very insidious. And regaining your peace of mind is important. You can play for so long. It's really such an individual choice, but I think you really don't want to keep exposing yourself to situations where you find yourself in that, the after the relationship party, or things like that, where it's just like, man, here I go again. That's part of the cycle, I would say, for people who then are hovered back. So it's what I call a good point is, like, I would say, is like emotional forecasting, where you can sort of look ahead, and especially during like holidays or birthdays or different things, where what is my temperature going to be during this situation, and or when if I'm going out to date, or I want to, things of this nature, then have some sort of emotional forecast about, again, with boundaries and standards that say, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I'm not looking for, and then have like 3 to 5, maybe 1 to 3 or 3 to 5 priorities, in what you're looking for and what you need in company. Particularly maybe that of being respected, having empathy, being fun. I mean, all these different things can coexist, but not to the point where you find yourself, some people are inextricably attracted to these types. You just have to say, do I want to be one of them? Do I want to be one of those people, and then, end up on Jerry Springer, or whatever. You just have to kind of, you know, um, you just have to go to, you have to go to your own ultimatum in your own heart for a lot of that too. So Out of Sync is back. And let's just see here. He used to steal my instruments at work and claim I lost them and tried to make me believe I was losing my mind. It's called crazy making. Yes, JB Rents. Yes, the crazy making. So, yeah, just it's, and they said it was the worst case you've ever encountered. So crazy making, yeah, is causing you to doubt yourself, and every organic activities, when you're sort of, you sort of get an interrupt with a criticism, which sort of will break your continuity, that internal continuity, I would say, is important. And to get out of the crazy making where they do these things, make these false claims against you. This is along the lines of the smear campaign. Yes, yeah, yes, definitely, JB Rent. Yes, crazy making. Yeah, that's part of a relationship, and a lot of people, I think they think that is maybe a new normal for them, and it is not pleasant. It is not a level of energy or a lifestyle or type of relationship that is sustainable. It is not sustainable for a lot of people. So, it doesn't make you weak or less than, to say that you want to opt out and you don't want to have this sort of crazy making. So, some people might do crazy making as just sort of their way to control the relationship, but someone else usually ends up suffering, and that's a good indicator. And then the sort of over perceive things, and everything is dramatic. I mean, that's like your histrionic behaviors as well. So there can be a lot of different situations where there is that crazy making, where in that gaslighting, and to make you doubt and judge yourself. See, that's how, once they can do that, then they can manipulate you, and then once they start sort of giving commands, then you're acting for them all the time, and then you get hooked, as one of our viewers had so aptly stated. Often, yeah, moderate in Dwayne Outdoors. Awesome, great to hear from it. If you need a moderator, feel free to add me in. I'm still learning this show here, so I hope to figure that out, Dwayne. I'm just sort of going live, so I'm not quite sure what I've pushed or where the moderators are or where the chat is. I do see a live chat, and I'm not sure. I see like a menu with 3 bars, but this is on webcam. So I hope you guys can see this okay and hear me. But I will look into that, Dwayne. So thank you for offering. That is awesome. I don't know how to add that right now, but I would love to. So I will look into that. All right. So super cool. Yeah, sociopathic or psychopathic. Yeah. So, no contact ever again. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good, that is a good solution. Yeah. But, you still have to continue. I would recommend, still continue to grow. I think for a lot of people, they have suffered from the abuse. They have found themselves in situations where they've had to recover from, they've had, some scars. Annie Walker, thank you for everything. Great to hear from you, Annie. Awesome. Welcome back to the chat. It is my pleasure to host this as a community and a channel and a resource for tools, discussion, and support for people who have undergone endured some different, difficult things, and how do you heal and sort of come out the other side. So awesome. Thank you for your viewership. And yeah, so so yeah, the dark, it becomes really insidious and more sociopathic or psychopathic, like Dwayne Outdoors was saying, is when you start getting into like a trauma bond or a betrayal bond where, they are a primary figure in your life, like a spouse or a parent, and they betray your trust. They cheat behind your back. They do things that are hurtful or harmful, yet they reward you simultaneously. They want you. And so it becomes this very potent bond with what you understand as love, and then what you can accept as trust, and then, but furthermore, is a connection within yourself, as well as what you desire and are attracted and feel good at. So it's kind of like, practice makes perfect. So but just practice, perfect practice makes perfect. Just so you have to realize, when have you hit like a rock bottom too? I think for a lot of people, and when you're like, this has gone beyond like where I feel safe, this is, you're at another level, you're at another dimension. You're like, this is something that I don't want to fool with or tamper with, but you have yourself still. So, when you get, and then, the other issue really is that of the crazy making, where you then develop a thought disorder, or a difficulty thinking, a difficulty planning, a difficult learning, and getting through. Being detached from an abuser feels okay. So for oftentimes, the pain might feel safe. So that is when things become difficult. When, the pain feels safe, when the lie, you're just going to keep it going, and you should be doing, you should be somewhere else, but you want to figure it out, you have to figure it out. And then, as you do, and then grow in your emotional intelligence, you'll then see that you can then see that sort of manipulation, or at least, for myself, who has studied and, and things of that nature. So it becomes very important that you be able to see new relationships with good lenses on, so to speak. And that you aren't finding yourself, sort of trying to get into that virus sort of sabotage element back in the relationship, where, things just sort of get chaotic, because that engineered chaos is what the narcissist and the psychopath is so good at. And then people get addicted to a chaos, and then they feel very unstable. They feel very unsure, and then they lack confidence. So awesome. Willa, Just Being Willa, is on. Good to see you, Willa, Just Being Willa. And glad to have you. Yes, it is very important to understand what is toxic. It is poisonous, meaning it is not good for the body. It is meaning there is something you need to get out. You need to rid yourself of, especially your emotional body, your etheric body, your feeling body. And I used to, JB Ren says, I used to be narc candy. Luckily, I only experienced it once. I know of it was particularly malignant. So in other words, yes, you might find yourself in that circle of people, and it is very scary, and it becomes really very important. It becomes really down to, and as you know, I don't joke. I mean, we're talking about really taking care of yourself, and it you can have legal issues with these people, losing your businesses, losing your identity, having your property stolen, we have people who have problem with stalkers and such. I mean, this becomes, we're talking about, this is not just like, oh, you're 16 anymore. This becomes problematic and needs solution. It needs, you need to know when to safeguard and when to take steps in that direction, because you can find that there is oftentimes a lot to a lot to lose. And I do know we have Silver Storm here asking about to share my story. I'll do that on another live. That's a great question. I will definitely do that. A lot of people want me to do that, so I will. I'm going to try to bring on more of the live here and just mix it up a little bit, and sort of vary the topics. And I'm not sure when's a good time, but we'll just kind of throw it out there. I don't plan to make it like real formal or like announce things. We'll just kind of do it during our usual, try to keep it to some posting times that we traditionally use, and to become more interactive for our viewer requests. So yes, and then do psychopaths hover? Well, I mean, so James Paul, well, I mean, they just will do whatever they want. So if it's convenient for them, I would say, if they are exposed, they're generally not going to go back to the same people that they are exposed, who have exposed them. So I would say they might test you, the people. I mean, but if you want to continue to live under the guise of that, then that's a very painful existence. So I would say not as much as someone who is like narcissistic, who needs more of that supply. The psychopath, they are more parasitic. They really need others, really, really for everything. A narcissist will hover back for companionship or loneliness. The psychopath, they more grapple with like boredom. Like they get bored very easily, so they have to, scurry around, and they'll usually have I would say some people who they can rely on for their supply, it's just a facade that they just, and then the facade might crack or break, but that person is so in denial and so weakened by being in a relationship with a psychopath. Believe me, y'all, Cardome Sings is on. All right, welcome to the live stream. We're doing a little bit of live stream. Whoop whoop. Where does grief fit into this? Yes, Steve, we've got a lot of questions. Yes, but we were talking about is someone who is like hovering you back. So really, someone who is more self-centered, like the narcissist. When they're lonely, when they need a back scratch, when they need their dinner made, when so they'll come back, I would say, for that sort of situation. And a psychopath, will continue to use and just sort of pull one over on people just all the time. I mean, to the depth and the degree to which they can live a lie in a facade to be someone that they are not is spellbinding. And the degree to which they fool and beguile people is also spellbinding. I mean, people, that's why they're usually with their mouth agape, like their mouth hanging open, like, oh my God, I can't believe this person just did that. Like, so a lot of people are so stunned. They're in, like in Pete Walker's book, they're in that fight or flight, they're in that fawn stage, and they're just like a deer in the headlights. Like they're just, and they won't, yeah, well, if they're Craig, if they won't stop gaslighting, then get away. I mean, that's how you leave. You have to understand your element of choice to stop, being around the gaslighting. Stop absorbing it. Stop taking the gaslighting in with your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your skin, your higher consciousness, everything. Stop taking it into your energetic field. You have to give the energetic field, your etheric field, some respect. And that is maybe you can't point to a place in yourself where you need to give self-respect, but the etheric field, your whole being, is what we're talking about. And Silverstorm, thanks for the thumbs up. I definitely love to hear your story too. Thank you, Nancy. Yes. Yeah. And so the psychopath, well, and remember too that, someone who is psychopathic, their relationship is very pre-calculated and premeditated and predetermined. I mean, they have a map for it, and they think on a whole nother dimension and level that most people would not even, don't have the capacity. I mean, because they're not of this psychological profile. So they're all about whatever it is that they want, whatever it is, and whatever it is that they have to take to get there. Usually there's an element of thrill and excitement and hyperarousal and sort of, high risk behavior with these people because they don't have a conscience. So they will engage in this sort of double and triple life, and it'll be so sealed off that no one would ever know, and they'll go undetected for years, if not decades. And so, will they come back to, they're to a psychopath? They can pick up and move from one town to the next to the next. They don't have any attachment. They don't really have any sort of like, bonding or anchor. Like, this is, they're very detached, and they think that this makes them superior. They think that this makes them better than, the fact that they don't have a heart. They think that it makes them sort of an ultra human. But eventually, people do expose them. And then, once you expose them, you see that they're completely other than who they say they are, what have you. So yeah, they'll finish out the job, meaning if, they have a sort of pre-calculated and premeditated sort of way that the relationship is going to go. And part of what they get out of it, I think, is just sort of, I as sort of understanding them, that they feel that they will mastermind it, outsmart, and then sort of make sure that, things are ruined or damaged or, not going to be as well for others. So, whether they have a sadistic side, it's more that they just don't have a sense of fear. They don't have any sort of empathy, and they don't have any consciousness. So, they will, and they don't like to be bored. So they will just be on whatever path that they want to pursue whatever ends. But I think that they usually have an image of what they want, being, having riches, or having this or having that, or lots of men or lots of women, and or different or not, but whatever it is, they will utilize whatever people, and then, have double and triple lives outside of that relationship that they seem loyal to. And so that loyalty, a lot of people will be loyal to these very hurtful people. But if you've exposed them, then you probably are not too attracted, to going back. And, but if you can get that, that period of time, going no contact, you have to go no contact. I mean, zero. Yes, Ernesto Busnelli, thank you. I'm definitely here. I want to give a little bit more sort of question and answer, so we can have that interaction feel, and we're going to try some more of this, guys. So let's just see here. Awesome. So yes, we're back for a little bit, and so to understand, yeah, that if they're hovering you back, realize that your own cessation of ruminating thoughts is very important, and this will take some time. As I talk about here on the channel, how long does it take to heal? Well, that is unique and up to everybody, but to really heal, you do need to go no contact from true psychopathic abusers, narcissistic abusers, which means you do not you do not give them eye contact. You do not listen. You do not surround yourself. You do not hang out with. You do not go to events. You do not communicate. Because they do not have a conscience. They are parasitic. They need people to get whatever really they have. And oftentimes that means them pulling, screaming, and tugging or doing whatever to whomever to get what they want. So if they want money, if they want possessions, if they just want to prove themselves, whatever it is that they want, there's a mask or and then there's always going to be others who they have stepped on or ruined to get there. So yes, it definitely premeditated. So you have to understand that a lot of the loyalty is feigned. So even if, they made promises, we're going to have a family or children or a puppy together or a dog, and there's all this, they have no intention on fulfilling these forward, but you might already have a wedding registry with this person. I mean, I'm talking, it goes this far. Do they lie to the courts? Do they get out of child support? Whatever. Yes, but the truth will set you free. And so I would not wrangle. I would not try to outsmart, and that brings, to another thing. You know, um, do you confront them? Do you not confront them? I mean, that's just all that's a whole nother video or whole nother live. But I just want to definitely be here to answer any questions. So let's just see here. Future fakers, yes, this is true. And they will put up a charade and a sham. I mean, and keep that sort of thrill going. These are your thrill seekers. These are the people who don't quit. Party till the sun comes up, party till the sun goes down, whatever. They have relentless energy. So, you might find these people hard to keep up with, and they will break people down. So, just, be careful that you really need to have and restore your energy to yourself and honor that process. And sometimes it feels like a very lonely or solo journey, but you have to be able to visualize to then materialize and feel better. So you really do need to have, as I call those, like valley moments, and just sort of like a rehab. Just like when you come out of surgery, you're not out there doing jumping jacks. You got to wait for some stuff for the muscles to fuse and heal. And you do need to be generous and give yourself that, and really work on enforcing those boundaries and standards, and then knowing, who to trust and who to not. And then, but namely, having that trust center within, which oftentimes is a deprived state. You haven't had that ability to sort of have that confidence, and then know that it's okay to not have to think like the fakers, to fit in or be a society guy or society girl, or whatever sort of pressure that these people might get you to sort of feel that you have to be, as if it's not okay enough for you to be yourself. And let's just see here, introvert soul. It is good you finally remove these harmful individuals, but I can only imagine the damage done over the years. It's mind-blowing what they're about. And that is true. Yeah, like and traits we can look for. So I think Nancy Leisha Martin, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Nancy. So yeah, like how do you spot somebody with borderline, with comorbid borderline personality disorder and narcissistic? So comorbid, meaning like what are some red flags? Like a lot of mood lability, a lot of extremes, a lot of go, and then shutting you out, would be a red flag. Someone who cannot give you eye contact would be a red flag. Someone who has a lot of all or nothing or black and white thinking, meaning on extremes. You're either all in or you're all out, or I know everything and you know nothing. Someone who really exists on these very polar opposites and extremes. And I've said here on the channel, a lot of those extremes or those negatives are quick to rise. Like, yeah, let's get mad. Like, yeah, and then, so people will escalate with these people very quickly. And so they'll feel that they can vent out with these people very quickly. So there becomes this sort of, I would say, red flag that is missed if you're, with the borderline personality disorder. So you're talking about someone who lacks impulse control, who has black or white thinking. Oftentimes they have an unstable sense of self. And so you might get a lot of this unstable sense of self very much more in the borderline, I would feel, than the narcissist. Because the narcissist is always trying to, oh, look how together I am, but it's deep inside, that's not how they're truly feeling, and they can't have true committed relationships. With a borderline, I feel like they're more about like that emotional hit and run, which is just like, see if you can keep me together and then you'll be good enough. Like, and I mean, so you have to be like a glue to their extremes, and you've got a lot of the mood lability, which means more histrionic, meaning, with the borderline, you better get used to a lot of extremes, and no gray area, no discussion, no communication, no back and forth. A borderline is just kind of like boom, boom, boom. They're all in their own head, and you might get you might get like a little whack once in a while, let you know that you're still there, but you're kind of on a ride, on their ride, and then a lot of black and white thinking, and so, and if it's either all this or all that, and then most of life, is not all, so, then, that moodiness, but, hey, some people will, they like that, and so that is fine, but it's always fine until somebody gets hurt, so we're talking about, sometimes people who are hurtful of others, but they never have any problem with it themselves. So yeah, I would say, there's going to be a lot of that moodiness, and then, a lot of sort of uncertainty going on. So a lack of stability. So the one thing that is stable is the instability. And so, and the borderline, they don't like people to get really close to them. It's sort of that fear of abandonment. So they sort of build in abandonment with love. So you're going to get a lot of that same sort of trauma bond with the borderline. I feel even more of a trauma bond. You're going to get that betrayal bond. Where you're like they're abandoning you, and then they're telling you like how good you are. Like they're a bit, just a big mix of confusing and cognitive dissonance creating, relating to, where it's like, you're so bad, here's a popsicle, you're unlovable, here's a bike, or I mean, just, or just sort of, just erratic behaviors. They might like erratic, they might like disappear from you at a restaurant, or be doing some strange things, and they just don't have just sort of, they don't have an impulse control. So they're just like really, and then if you try to sort of be stable with them, then you're the problem. If you're not, if you don't then always talk them up or admire them or give into their impulse control, i.e., you surrender your everything to them, then you're getting into a very addictive sort of personality there, Nancy. Yeah. So comorbid borderline personality disorder, narcissist personality disorder. Yeah, I mean, it can be together. Everything is a spectrum. But one thing you can identify is what you can identify, which is like some objective things and how you felt. And if you try to like sort of get that in with a if you try to validate, if you try to get validation from flying monkeys, you're going to get more of the same. So they're not, so sometimes coming to grips with a cluster B is it takes a very strong person. It really builds a lot of strength and emotional intelligence, that's for sure. So you do have a lot of positive really to take from it, even though it might be very painful, as they say, take it with a dash of salt. And lack of transparency, that's exactly right, Dwayne. That is really what we're talking about in the previous videos, is the passive aggressive, which means very indirect communication. They are not comfortable being transparent. They're not comfortable being emotionally naked. Back in the day, I would say, for the older generations, there would be a lot of division between different peoples. You wouldn't be transparent, parents wouldn't be transparent with kids. Kids were to be hit, all these different things. So I would say, especially with time, now that we find ourselves in the information age, transparency really can become important, or it can be tarnished. So the transparency can be right on and clear, or it can be taken advantage of very quickly, especially with all the different photos that people send, and all the different hiding, and you could be at a date with somebody else, or and then you're texting somebody else, so there's even more opportunity for lack of transparency. So it's very important. So you have to decide, which side you're on. Are you on the side of truth and sort of being authentic and being really happy, and like being able to, you know, be yourself, or live to please another? Or is there a balance? But number one, you have to own it. You know, especially if there's, you know, uh, pathology, or lying in pathology, meaning lying in the communication. Yeah, I was on this vacation. Yeah, I didn't go with anybody, and you find out that they have another relationship. Like, that is not transparent communication. So you got to have some real boundaries and standards. So find it that when, and then Crystal's here. Yes, Big Daddy. Yes. So in other words, if they have done that, you know, I mean, so you have to say, if they have done this and betrayed my trust, but I still have to love them. Do you see how very difficult? Um, and we're talking about, with people who are, who you have trusted, or your spouse. Yeah, and kids. Once again, we have viewers here who have kids that they feel are narcissistic. Well, all kids, I think to a certain degree, and so you have to wait for them to mature. But definitely there are some emotional habits which you can have a lot of, um, you know, um, bad emotional habits which get reinforced by the adults. So the adults are always in charge. Adults are adults. They are to take care of children for that purpose. That is their job. that is their, title. Mother or father. Of a family. Um, but the pathology of lying. If you find yourself, married to somebody who uses like omission, like Big Daddy said, in other words, they have betrayed your trust. That is serious. You have to really realize that is not fair. And then, you can never really win with a cheater, because they're always changing the rules, the terms of engagement, and you become underrepresented. You don't have a say, and that is not fair. That's just unfair. That's on level playing ground. So, unfortunately, a lot of people, and I know here on the channel, who are finding themselves in relationships with those who have, they're in legal battles. They are needing the truth, and these people are lying to the police or lying to the courts. Just really insidious stuff. And so to deal with this sort of thing, you have to become transparent, like Dwayne is saying, becoming transparent with yourself, and really, realizing that, they have everything to gain from you being disempowered. So realizing, like, what is their, um, what is their outcome by trying to smear you and throw you under the bus so that you are weakened and broken. I mean, this is what they do. They create, you for yourself, so you can't ever be yourself. It's like, look, I threw you under the bus. You're all broken. You don't belong here. In other words, they create the very injuries which they blame you for. So it becomes a very, gaslighting. So, and that is known as projection. I mean, we can do live segments, however thorough you guys need to get this up and running. But that is really an insidious thing to come out of, because you become then, as a human being, you have mirror empathy, neurons, you have mirror neurons. So if you are in a relationship with someone who is mirroring back to you, a lot of lies, and they are a lot of criticism, which is designed to be hurtful and designed to manipulate your perspective of someone or your relationship, then that is a red flag. You have to know that they are talking up the gossip for a reason. The negative water cooler talk. Put down that one employee. Let's get on them and let's crush them down. Let's show them who's boss. So it's like all again that bully, just sort of that person who has insatiable need for power. And but you have to say, I will not be run then by this person. I am not run by this person. I am the captain. And so you have to be able, in the safety of your own, the privacy of your own heart, and like in these videos, you have to say, I'm not caving into that pressure. I'm not getting swept up for that. I'm not falling for that. It's okay. It's okay to think different, but oftentimes people don't want to appear that they have not become supplied to the narcissist, because they're trying to evolve. They're trying to avoid that narcissistic rage or being on the out camp or whatever it is. Usually the narcissist will keep an in camp and an out camp. Psychopath also, but that's how you can tell. I think a red flag is, are they trying to create like a lot of division and divisiveness, us versus them? That's the gang up mentality. Then there's something going on there. There's something who is trying to, and especially if it's in your family or in your marriage. I mean, that is, your home is where you have to be able to be safe. That is number one, and that means undivided. Undivided and undivided in self. So oftentimes, like in the previous live, people were saying, how difficult it is for children. Well, just like for children who would also, get separated, and how do they come to, be and perceive things, and so that they can own their own perceptions. They can be taught, like Dwayne Outdoors is saying, things from their perspective, but they have to be able to have a synthesis and make it for their own. That takes a lot of courage. And they will lie to therapists. Yes, Crystal Jean, absolutely. They will also, thank you, Bebop, great analogy, thank you. I try to use that so people can kind of like understand. And yeah, they will spin a web to catch their prey. Period, end of story. Here we are coming up on October. I know we have like viewers all over the world here, and I'm not sure if you guys have like Halloween or something. Maybe you don't, but it's all like about the spiders and the spider web and that crazy stuff. So yes, it is like a web. That is very, very serious when they will, and then set sort of that web for you to then participate in, and then look, like I've said in previous videos, then you like bottom out, like, you think that there's a relationship there, and then there is not the relationship there. It's like, haha, on you. You thought that there was a relationship. So they will carry this on. It's just, they will drag on, and then be in the right. So they cannot see anything more than what they desire. So that is the real shortcoming, especially of the malignant narcissist and the psychopath. And then, of course, with the borderline, everything is so extreme. There is no room for discussion. There is no room for waiting it out. There is no, there is no amicableness. There is only harshness, and there's only cutting. What you would call cutting language, pointedness, and then so. But if you're with that, how can you not become a counterforce to that force? So that's where a lot of people, I would say, then fall into the trap. They become a counterforce to that force. So you don't want to use that counterforce for your defining of, your I am, because they will diminish and degrade that. They will erode that. That's the goal of the manipulation, is so that is weakened, not made strong, and unable to see transparency. So, well, that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope we addressed some of your questions. I definitely appreciate your viewership, and thank you so much for your comments and your questions and your input. I love It's so great to hear from you guys. And we'll keep picking this up a little bit as we go. So this is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope that this live did help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. We'll see you on more lives, hopefully soon. I'm just going to take it easy here right now, put my feet up and chill. Great to see you. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy.